Hey, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. It's Lieutenant Bruner. I am a former Detachment 910 alum. I graduated here in 2021. I'm a combat pilot select. I'll be attending the European Nations Joint Jet Pilot Training Program at Shepherd Air Force Base, Texas, and hopefully fiscal year 22, if that stays on track. Today I'll be kind of covering a little bit about basic fighter maneuvers, which is a section of air combat maneuvering, or ACM. The purpose of this video and subsequent videos is to give you guys an idea of what you may want to do in the future, get you guys interested in the combat pilot career field with different airframes that span all the way from F-15s, 16s, A-10s, the lot, all the way to bombers as well. The majority of these BFM tactics are developed over the course of many generations and have been tried and tested in many conventional and non-conventional wars, as well as training scenarios against near peers in other countries and adversary aircraft when presented the opportunity. The term basic fighter maneuvers, or BFM as it will now be called from now on, are tactical movements performed by fighter aircraft during air combat maneuvering, also called ACM. BFM combines the fundamentals of aerodynamics, geometry, physics, energy to weight ratios, and specific energy. The end goal of all maneuvers and procedures in BFM is to put yourself in a more advantageous position, whether that be to gain the kill or in a more neutral environment protecting you, to either give yourself a way to escape the fight and survive, to re-engage, or take advantage of the space you have created and the energy you've developed in order to gain the kill on the opponent. You may have seen many of these maneuvers in Top Gun, but I promise you, the way you saw in the movies looks nothing like what it actually looks like in DCS and how you'll be able to practice it. DCS is a great tool for using modern day fighters to go ahead and give us a real world sim environment to train against computer programs. Everything that I'll be covering today is public. None of it's classified. The United States Air Force's tactics and procedures that we use on a daily basis are classified, and these BFM maneuvers you'll be learning in a training environment into greater detail with parameters that are talked about at greater lengths by people more qualified than me. This is the bare bones textbook to get your foot in the door for DCS, to have a little bit of fun, learn a little bit, maybe get yourself interested in what I think is the greatest career field. The most important thing to be aware of when flying complex aircraft is your position in space. That is a combination of your situational awareness of what is around you, that is a defensive mindset, where the enemy is relative to you, whether you are in an offensive, neutral, or defensive position, and what your speed, altitude, and other flight parameters, all of this must go into every single thought process or be in the back of your mind, and you're constantly pulling from multiple gauges, positions, markers, and just general positional cues of enemies and friendly aircraft in the battle space. Let's go ahead and talk about one of the most important aspects of BFM, which is called specific energy, or better known in the community as your energy. If one has too much energy, it may be easy to get into close range for a gun solution, but then that also leads to a negative aspect of BFM, which may lead to an overshoot. Too little energy and the attacker may not be able to get in range at all. If the defender has more energy than the attacker, it may be possible to escape. But if the defender gets too slow with too little energy, the defender will lose all maneuverability, and in almost every situation will lose the fight. In BFM, energy does not refer to fuel or specific thrust. Rather, it refers to the main two types of energy that we talk about in your conventional physics class. That is potential energy and kinetic energy. Kinetic energy is a function of the weight of your airplane, so the mass, and a quadratic factor of the speed, while potential energy is simply a function of its mass, the constant force of gravity, and its altitude. If you are in unaccelerated normal flight at a high altitude, you have a large amount of potential energy that can quickly be converted to kinetic energy in order to speed the airplane up, get at the right speed, and enter the fight. Vice versa, one can be relatively low in space with a whole lot of kinetic energy and trade it for altitude for a more advantageous position. The important thing out of this section is for you to understand that there are always ways to trade off and exchange potential for kinetic and kinetic for potential energy in an advantageous way to either defend, or in almost every single of these maneuvers you're going to see, gain a positional advantage on the defender to give yourself a gun solution. What's great about these modern day fighters like the F-16, the F-18, and the F-15 They display both speed and altitude tapes on the HUD. The only thing you ever should be heads down for is if you are looking at your radar, your data link, or you're checking your fuel state and giving lead a call. Other than that, you should always be heads up and out of the cockpit. Use every advantage and technology you have, whether that be a head-mounted cueing system called a HEMIX, an off-board missile shot using advanced missiles such as an AIM-9X, or most commonly used in adversary aircraft are electro-optical scanning devices, just really powerful cameras that look at contrast and give a passive lock to an enemy airplane without giving away a radar cue. Transitioning from energy, when we talk about dogfighting, we talk about circles. So most often than not, we practice in a neutral position called a merge. That is when two airplanes are flying almost 180 degrees in opposite directions, screaming at each other, passing wingtip to wingtip a couple hundred feet. The most important thing about these turning fights is recognizing where your airplane performs best. When we're thinking about turn performance, we consider both the turn rate in degrees per second and the radius of the turn. The corner speed is the optimal speed that can maximize its turn rate and minimize its turn radius. Flying at a higher airspeed with a constant turn rate means that your turn radius is going to be larger, and therefore your overall turn performance will be less. So it's a gentle balance between both maximizing in some situations your turn rate over your turn radius, or vice versa, maximizing your turn radius over your turn rate. Corner speed, like I said earlier, is defined as the minimum speed at which the maximum sustainable G-force can be generated, the load at which power equals drag. It varies with each fighter's structural and capability design, wing loading characteristics, and most importantly, its weight and thrust capabilities. Generally, it often falls in an area between 250 and 450 knots. In modern day fighters, we normally like to pull between 6 and 9 Gs at any given point in a tight turn fight. It is important to realize how many Gs you are pulling, where it is located on the HUD, and most importantly, how you can exchange G-forces for angle of attack for what we call nose-on authority. The angle of attack is simply the angle between the chord line of the wing and the relative wind direction. Higher angles of attack will substantially increase drag, but push a little bit of lift in order to get nose-on authority and possibly achieve a good guns or missile solution. In modern-day fighters, these turns can be as high as 9 Gs before the pilot begins to experience G-induced loss of consciousness, also known as G-lock. These turns can have a very small turn radius, but cause a large loss in energy, either in the form of speed or altitude. The next important aspect of BFM is the type of pursuit. This can more generally be described as the geometry of your position against the adversary. Successful BFM requires geometry as much as it does skill and stamina. Pilots must know their aircraft's ideal cornering speed, as well as optimum angles of bank and angles of attack. With this geometry, it is very important for pilots to remain conscious of the angle between the opponent's velocity vector and their own. Most importantly, the pilot must remain aware of the angle off tail, also called the AOT, which is the angle between flight path. A high AOT causes a high rate of closure, but makes achieving a sustainable gun solution nearly impossible. Acquiring a low angle off tail AOT, getting on an enemy's tail, can decrease or even reverse closure rate, and is usually the primary goal before an overshoot occurs. The AOT is often estimated by the position of the attacking aircraft's nose in relation to the defender. AOT are generally grouped into 3 categories called pursuit curves. The first is lead pursuit. This occurs when the nose of the attacker points ahead of the defender. Peer pursuit happens when the attacker's nose points directly at the defender. And lastly, lag pursuit, where the attacker's nose points behind the defender. The primary purpose for lead pursuit is to provide quick closure. An attacker in lead pursuit is well within the defender's rear view, unless the defender has enough speed advantage to escape by relaxing the turb and dropping into a shallow dive. The defender will likely turn sharply in an effort to increase the AOT, forcing the attacker to turn even harder than to overshoot, or to perform a maneuver out of the horizontal plane to compensate. The main purpose for lead pursuit is used during gun attacks. This is because the fast motion of combat requires that the aircraft's cannons be aimed at a point in space ahead of the defender, where the enemy will be when the bullets arrive. Like lead pursuit, peer pursuit is used to provide closure. However, the closure is not as rapid. Peer pursuit is used when attempting to acquire a missile lock, whether that be a radar lock, or a heat-seeking lock. The most common initial position in a BFM fight is lag pursuit. Lag pursuit is used to stop a reverse closure rate, decrease AOT while allowing the attacker to maintain or even increase forward separation. Falling outside the defender's turn radius, the attacker can maintain or increase his energy while forcing the defender to turn at an energy depleting rate. The goal of lag pursuit is to push the defender to bleed off his energy and force him into a position where he cannot defend against peer or lead pursuit, i.e. he has no more energy to maneuver in a substantial way out of plane to prevent or even compensate or force you to overshoot before you can achieve a missile lock and a missile kill or a good gun solution. Before we talk about the different turn circles, we have to talk about positioning. As mentioned prior, there are three basic positions in BFM. It is always important to quickly decide which position you are in order to most effectively act in order to gain the kill or defend and push the position into a neutral, fight, escape, or even re-engage. First, we'll start with an offensive position. An offensive position generally occurs when the pilot gets sight on the opponent first. With the advantage of surprise, the pilot can maneuver into a better position to attack the opponent. An offensive position is generally defined as the ability to get above or behind the enemy. The pilot is able to create an energy advantage, providing the ability to swoop down on the opponent and spray the area with bullets while using the speed to climb back to a safe altitude. The attacker also has an orientation-related advantage, being able to press the attack while avoiding the enemy's weapons. A defensive position usually occurs when the pilot spots the attacker late. This position is usually indicated by either being below or ahead of the opponent. This pilot is in a weak position and should primarily be concerned with denying a shot to the opponent and converting this position and pushing it to a neutral one. The secondary goal is either to escape or to achieve a dominant position in a re-engagement. If the attacker is at an energy disadvantage, the defender will likely use speed to disengage. But if the attacker is moving much faster, the defender should maneuver in order to force a dangerous overshoot. A dangerous overshoot happens when an attacker flies out in front of the defender, causing their roles to instantly be reversed. As a defender, you should always be pushing the attacker to make mistakes. By making mistakes, you can either reverse the position instantaneously by forcing him to fly out in front of you, and you become the attacker instantly and get a good gun solutions, or you can cause him to overshoot, disengage, and then have yourself reposition into a neutral fight. Next, let's talk about circle flow. There are either one circle fights or two circle fights. A one circle fight happens when you guys enter the merge in a neutral position and you guys both turn into each other. So one person turns right and pulls, and the other person turns left and pulls. In this case, in the horizontal plane. A two circle flow happens when both aircraft turn the same direction. So they both turn right in the horizontal plane, forcing a later secondary merge. During a one circle flow, the fighter with the smaller turn radius will have the advantage. Pilots will often pitch up out of plane while increasing thrust to help minimize turn radius. Because it does not really matter where the two fighters meet in the circle, turn rate is of little importance during a one circle flow. Therefore, it is often called a radius fight. An out-of-plane maneuver such as a displacement roll is a viable option for reducing turn radius. Two circle flow will result in another merge. In two circle flow, turn radius is of little importance because what matters is which fighter can get back to the merge first. Two circle flow is a turn rate fight, and the angular advantage usually goes to the aircraft with a higher turn rate at its corner speed. Pilots will often slice the turn in order to maximize their turn rate. A third option is called a vertical flow, in which one or both fighters turn toward the vertical plane. If both fighters go up or down, the fight becomes a one circle flow. If one fighter goes up or down while the other turns horizontally, it is a really modified version of a one circle flow. However, if one fighter goes up while the other pitches down, it becomes a two circle flow. In both types of flow, the closest possible merge is desirable to keep the enemy at an angular disadvantage. Although circle flow is often described using neutral merges, the concept applies anytime two aircraft maneuver in relation to each other and their horizon. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the maneuvers now. First, combat spread. Combat spread is the most basic maneuver used prior to an engagement. A pair of an attacking aircraft will separate, often by a distance of 1 mile horizontally and or 1,500 feet vertically. The fighter with the lower altitude becomes a defender while the wingman flies above in the perch position. The defender will attempt to lure their opponent into a good position to be attacked by the wingman. Next, a defensive split. A pair of fighters encountering one or two attackers will often use a defensive split. This maneuver consists of both defenders making turns in opposite direction, forcing the attackers to follow only one aircraft. This allows the other defender to circle around and maneuver behind the attackers. Next is called a sandwich. A sandwich maneuver begins with two defenders flying line abreast, side by side at the same altitude, with typically about a mile of lateral separation. This also can occur in combat spread. When an attacker maneuvers onto the tail of one aircraft, normally a bandit will jump either the lead or the wingman. The defender will communicate and make a turn sharp away from the wingman. At the same time, the wingman turns in the same direction as the defender. When both fighters turn 90 degrees left or right, they will come into a single file alignment with each other, sandwiching the bandit in the middle. Because the attacker is distracted by chasing one of the defenders, this allows the other to maneuver onto the attacker's tail and gain the kill. Spotting an attacker approaching from behind, a defender will usually brake. The maneuver consists of turning sharply across the attacker's flight path to increase AOT. The defender is exposed to the attacker's gun solution for only a brief instant, called a snapshot. The maneuver works well because the slow-moving defender has a smaller turn radius and a bigger angular velocity, and a target with a high crossing speed is very difficult to shoot. This can also help to force the attacker to overshoot, which may not be true had the turn been made away from the attacker's flight path. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the standard maneuvers now. First is the barrel roll attack. The counter to a break is often a displacement roll called the barrel roll attack. A barrel roll consists of performing a roll and a loop, completing both at the same time. This results in a helical roll around a straight flight path. The barrel roll attacks use a much tighter loop than a roll, completing a full loop with only executing a 3/4 roll. The result is a virtual 90-degree turn using all three dimensions in the direction opposite of the roll. Rolling away from the defender's break, the attacker completes the roll with the aircraft's nose pointed in the direction of the defender's travel. So here, the bandit is in a left-hand turn. I will go ahead and pitch up, initiate a 3/4 roll to the right, pulling down in order to go left from my original position and follow the bandit down. I will convert my kinetic energy originally into some potential and then use gauge G over the top to then gain the angular advantage on the bandit. Next is a high side guns pass, often called a jump. If you're going to jump a bandit, you're going to come swooping down from the top with fast and strafe across the defender's flight path. If the attacker has a significant altitude advantage, a high side gun pass is usually prudent, sometimes called a swoop, a boom and zoom, and a hit and split. I call it a hit and run. It consists of a power dive toward the rear quarter of the lower flying opponent, normally under the essence of surprise. An important positioning maneuver is called an immelman. An immelman trades airspeed for altitude during a 180-degree change in direction. The aircraft performs the first half of the loop, and when completely inverted, rolls to the upright position. The immelman is a good offensive maneuver for setting up a high side guns pass against a lower altitude, slower moving opponent. However, an immelman is a poor defensive maneuver, turning the defender into a slow-moving target. The reverse of an immelman is called a split S. The maneuver consists of rolling inverted and pulling back on the stick, diving the aircraft into a half loop, which changes the aircraft's direction 180 degrees. The split S is a rarely viable option in combat as it depletes the kinetic energy in a turn and potential energy in a dive. It is most often used to set up a high side guns pass against a lower but fast-moving opponent that is traveling in the opposite direction. It is most commonly used as a disengagement tactic. Now let's go ahead and talk about the most practical combat maneuvers in a turn fight. First, the low yo-yo. It sacrifices altitude for instantaneous speed increase. The maneuver is accomplished by rolling with the nose low into the turn and dropping into a steeper slice turn by utilizing some energy that was stored in the vertical plane. The attacker can quickly decrease the range, improving the angle of attack, literally cutting the corner on the opponent's turn. The pilot then pulls back on the stick, climbing back to the defender's height. This helps slow the aircraft and prevent an overshoot, while placing the energy back into altitude. The low yo-yo is often followed by a high yo-yo to help prevent an overshoot. A high yo-yo is a very effective maneuver and very difficult to counter. The maneuver is used to slow the approach of a fast-moving attacker while conserving the airspeed energy. The maneuver is performed by reducing the angle at which the aircraft is banking during a turn, pitching up, bringing the fighter into a new plane of travel. Then the attacker rolls into a steeper pitch turn, climbing above the defender. The trade-off between airspeed and altitude provides the fighter with a burst of increased maneuverability. This allows the attacker to make a smaller turn, correcting an overshoot, and pull in behind the defender. Then, by returning to the defender's plane below him, the attacker restores the lost speed while maintaining his energy. A modified version of the high yo-yo is called a lag displacement roll. This maneuver is used to reduce the angle off tail by bringing the attacker from lead pursuit to pier or even lag pursuit. This maneuver is performed by rolling up and away from the turn, then when the aircraft's left vector is aligned with the defender, pulling back on the stick, bringing the fighter back into the turn. This maneuver helps prevent an overshoot caused by the high angle off tail of lead pursuit, and can also be used to increase distance between aircraft. If you believe you're going to overshoot, you either have the option for a high yo-yo depending on your position in space, or a lag displacement roll. Next, the scissors. The scissors are a series of turn reversals and flight path overshoots intended to slow the relative forward motion of the aircraft in an attempt to either force a dangerous overshoot on the part of the defender or prevent a dangerous overshoot on the attacker's part. The defender's goal is to stay out of phase with the attacker, trying to prevent a gun solution while the attacker tries to get in phase with the defender. The advantage usually goes to the more maneuverable aircraft. Good guns defense is a series of random changes in the defender's flight path, intended to spoil the attacker's aim by presenting a constantly shifting target and hopefully to maneuver out of the bullet stream, called the hose. It consists of arbitrary speed changes, yaws, skids, slips, pitch-ups, and rolls, and is often referred to as jinking. Because the attacker must aim ahead of the opponent, the primary goal in Guns D is to disorient the attacker's aim by keeping the nose pointed in a different direction than his velocity vector. A high G barrel roll is a combination of a loop and a snap roll. A high G barrel roll is a last-ditch defensive maneuver performed when the attacker has achieved a suitable gun solution in order to cause an overshoot. The high G barrel roll is a violent maneuver which is performed much more aggressively than a normal barrel roll. Range is critical to the success of the roll, and the defender will usually turn very hard or employ other measures to draw the opponent close before performing the roll. The roll is executed by applying hard back stick pressure, creating high Gs, and adding hard rudder input to assist the ailerons in rolling the fighter. A high G barrel roll can be performed over the top, or it can be performed underneath, which is accomplished by rolling upside down and then beginning the maneuver from the inverted position. The high G barrel roll is the most energy depleting maneuver, and it rarely causes the actor to fly out in front, but usually result in a flight path overshoot, a flat scissors, or at the very least will temporarily disrupt the attacker's aim. Thank you so much for sitting through that vocabulary session. What I'm going to go ahead and play for you now is a couple mock scenarios of me and a wingman, or me being the wingman, going in a 2v2 BFM situation. It'll illustrate some of the comms we're using and get you guys maybe having some fun with your friends at your detachment, fighting the AI, or maybe even a competition in the future for 2v2 BFM.
All right, let's both go Y. So you go combat spread right, I'll go left of them, and then let's swing back in on them.
2.
Switch bandit, switch bandit.
Roger. Two screaming in.
Merged.
2 is merged right, going vertical. He's following. I got good guns on one guy down here. I'm looping low, getting my airspeed back.
Copy, I'm in a vertical fight with mine.
Merged. Look at that. He's just... He's trying to roll out on you right now.
Yeah, no, I see that.
And you're defensive?
Yeah, I see that. His nose is coming to pure, tightening down. He's stuck in leg. Going to the vertical, roll it over on him.
Yep.
Put the lift vector on his 6. Alright, I don't have the altitude to roll that out, so we're just gonna ditch into the rate fight.
He's going high yo-yo on you.
Yeah, no, I see that. He can high yo-yo all he wants.
Yeah,
he's just gonna get
there he goes
rated.
again. There he goes again.
And this time he's
way
gonna
slow.
die from it too.
Yeah,
yep.
he's way slow.
And I'm not.
Oh, nice. Still alive.
Yeah, I see that though.
Good reversal, power off.
Oh, that should have hit him. That was right in the funnel.
This guy's, I've hit him like 7 times too. So this guy's an absolute, he's on fire. This guy's an absolute Chad.
Yeah, I am bingo, which is not fantastic, but
He had a one too many vodkas for breakfast this morning.
oh, come on, Viper, give me that AOA.
Oh, he punched
Oh,
out.
and eject.
Right.
All right, there we go. Splash 2.
One cutting.
All right, what's the plan?
Hey,
What's the plan, Chief?
Just stick it tight, and then how about one goes high, one goes low.
All right, I'll go low.
Alright, I'm gonna go high then. We'll make it. I'll call the splits. We'll go from there. All right.
Sounds good.
All right. Fox 2. Just kidding. These guys are crazy.
No, they're splitting over again.
Yep. All right, get slow. Get ready for that fight. All right. Merged. One's going vertical.
Merged. 2's going low.
One went high. Both went high.
Yep. I got mine in a vertical fight.
All right. My guy's left-hander. I got him.
Oh, you just crossed right under my bandit. Oh wait, that's you. Okay. Wait, are you on mine?
Am I chasing your guy right now?
You have a big MiG on your 6. Oh wait, no, hang on. Yeah, you got a MiG on you. You're sandwiched between 2 of them. I'm gonna take yours.
Breaking.
You take mine.
All right.
No, you're good. Continue.
All right. I'm dragging this guy.
All right, no, okay. You're defensive. I'm on him.
All right,
bring him left if you can.
All right. One's cutting left. I'm gonna get my speed up too. Yeah.
All right, I'm on his ass.
All right. Bag him and tag him. Nice, he's breaking off.
Splash.
Roger. Looking for the other guy.
My left. I'm breaking high.
All right.
He's gonna follow me.
I'm looking.
Got him in a vertical.
All right. I see him. I'm gonna pick him up. Okay.
Copy. I see you.
Oh, yeah. I'm slowing down. I'm gonna roll in underneath him here. Okay.
Copy. Let me know if you need. Oh, he's shooting.
Yeah, he's shooting. Jink.
Yeah, no, he missed.
I'm in.
Good guns.
Oh, that was a good fight. Hey, one's coming back to flight level 10. Good luck out there. Thanks for hanging around, and if you have any questions, feel free to pop them down below. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day. I'm gonna go ahead and enter the break. All right. 1,000, 2, 1,000. I'll see you on the ground. 2, 1's in the break.
Two's in the break.
All right, establish downwind. Gear coming down.
2's downwind. You're coming down. Three green.
Yep. 1's rolling. Downwind to final here. Coming through 1,000 on base. That's good.
2's turning left base for final.
I'm gonna, like I said, go ahead and try to, let's make it perfect here. I'm gonna come a little bit to the left here, but I'm gonna put my wheels down on the end of the runway here. And 1's down.
Probably the best approach I've ever flown.
Oh yeah, that was fantastic.
There's the inner marker.
And 1's clear the runway.
Yeah, I slammed that a little hard.